All right. Good morning to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and I am joined by.
Jerome Bourgeois, co-creator, co-founder, Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Yeah, man, how's it going? Yeah, I know we keep going by Movers Shakers Unlimited on the website, so I was like, anyway. Anyway, man, it's looking good with the bright early sunshine,
I
man.
know,
The
man.
natural
Like
light
I
is looking
said,
great,
good
man.
morning, good morning, good morning, man.
I know we're doing it on a
Um,
Sunday, but hey, we still make
Indeed,
it work. We
indeed.
make it work.
So we are doing this episode of This Week in Review. As you know, every Saturday we like to talk the bits that have made the rounds. Guys, neither one of us can talk today. But yeah, I'd like to talk the news bits that have made the rounds. Typically, just as Jerome said, this happens on Saturdays. But however, today we're doing it on Sunday. And with that in mind, I want to, hop as always into some minutes. Just make sure that if you're following along where with these episodes that we have, if you are enjoying them, know that aside from checking it out live, that you can also catch it as a archived episode, and you can follow along using that hashtag this week in review. So that's TWnRMNSU. So that's This Week in Review, Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Additionally, you can also find us on Patreon. You can be a Patreon supporter with us. Check out the link below. We do have some cool perks in place if you want to be Patreon supporter with us, and we want to give a shout out to Joelle Bourgeois, of course,
Yep.
for
Shout
being a
out,
Patreon
sis.
supporter with us. Now, with that in mind, let's just hop right into the news bits, and then also I want to also give you a reminder too that if there are certain stories that you are particularly keen on, know that you could also forward ahead, because we will once this episode has been archived, put in the chapters there for you to check out the individual stories as well. So just be aware of that also. So with our first story, I wanted to hop into a major acquisition, news of a major acquisition that happened over the course of this week, and that's CAA's acquisition of ICM. So in talking about this acquisition and the ramifications, Jerome, what are your thoughts on the idea of CAA? A organization that provides representation for talent. Making this acquisition of ICM. I mean, there are a lot of interesting caveats and factors that play into why this is happening, but still, just first initial impressions.
Yeah, and thanks for everyone tuning in on our 30-second episode. So, yeah, we appreciate it. Yeah, this story is obviously, I mean, it's huge. This is definitely like one of the biggest stories, especially in entertainment, because I mean, the last huge merger we've had like this in entertainment with agencies was the William Morris Agency and Endeavor, and they became WME. So this is crazy. Like, how you're seeing CAA and ICM partnering, merging, and yeah, I mean, it seems like it's inevitable. I mean, you kind of, I kind of don't blame them for trying to compete, because I mean that's what inevitably happens when the marketplace gets, your competitors get bigger, and it's just like the studios and the streaming companies buying up other companies too to increase their assets, their digital assets or media assets, if you want to call it that, or creative assets. But yeah, it seems like this is inevitable. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see like how this is even possible too, because I'm just thinking after a while, like I'm sure there'll probably be some, legal issue. They're gonna have to go through some legal process because of antitrust issues or stuff like that. But I mean, I'm sure they'll find a way to make it work. There might be some things that might have to be divvied up or something. Because I remember when Disney, when Disney acquired Fox, they were able to,
Right.
they
Right.
acquired 20th Century. They were able to acquire 20th Century Fox and some other, I think it was like FX and like some other networks, but they weren't able to acquire, like they didn't get Fox News, and they didn't get, I don't think they got the sports section either, because that would have been too much. So like there's still some caveats, even though I'm glad that Disney got 20th Century Fox. So X-Men and all those Marvel properties went back to Marvel. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, agencies, I guess, are a little bit different because they're representing talent. But what's also interesting is, I mean, you do see with like WME, they were also getting into content creation and produce. Like they, I remember they actually found a way to, they found a way to also produce stuff, which is kind of interesting to me because I was like, how are agents able to do that? So I think they have like a separate entity with Endeavor that was like producing stuff or creating some content. And I remember the UFC acquisition, that was another thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if CAA and the new CAA, whatever it's going to be called, if it's CAA ICM or whatever, or CCM, who knows? I'm sure they're probably going to follow in similar footsteps. But like I said, this is also, it seems like it's just inevitable because of now with the deals that are made, you can't really, like a lot of these movie stars and filmmakers, they can't rely on box office anymore. So now these agencies are really packaging these huge mega deals together with streamers and trying to get as much money up front. Like it says in this article, like I thought it was hilarious because I mean, I like Knives Out, but I mean, I didn't know it would be worth that much money. That sequel deal with, for at Netflix. I mean,
right. Yeah.
It was like $450 million. I mean, I remember hearing stuff like that. And then there was another one, obviously, with the Will Smith, Antoine Fuqua movie, Emancipation at Apple for, I think it's, was it 150 million or 100 around that price tag. But yeah, so, okay, 450 million for the two Knives Out sequels that Netflix, one of those packages put together for Netflix for a deal for two Knives Out sequels, and reached north of 450 million. And then the $130 million deal at Apple made for Will Smith and Antoine Fuqua for the drama Emancipation. This is according to Deadline. I know Variety had an article too, but I mean, you're going to see more deals like this because a lot of the talent, they need their money up front because there's, box office is kind of going away for some of these movies. So I'm not surprised that some of these, when you have a mega agency, if you represent most of the talent out there, you have a little more leverage too. So it kind of makes sense. But I'm just only thing I'm kind of worried about is, for the top agencies, it's just getting smaller. So it's like, same with, so you're kind of like, there are other agencies. I'm not going to lie. I mean, of course there are other agencies, but like for the top ones who have the most power and like talent, to leverage whatever talent out there, it's just getting smaller and smaller. So that's a little bit, concerning. So, but
I guess I was going to say the piece that I find interesting, you were talking about antitrust is, they were talking about how quickly this came about and, even under the best circumstances, it still takes a while for acquisitions. And mind you, I'm not the utmost expert, but at least from observing other acquisitions that you are made privy to in news stories, it still seems to take a while before all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, so to speak, in terms of the different parts of how that acquisition is going to work. So I know that they said that more than likely it would close out or get done by the end of this year. But considering everything that's going on in our world right now, I'm kind of skeptical, even under the best circumstances, that will happen by the end of this year. I still would say probably at the top of next year, but I mean, at least according to the story, it's saying that is more than likely to happen. I'm just a little skeptical in that part. But the thing that I feel is interesting is with the way streaming has been going, and I feel that even though it was inevitable, it's been sped up because of the pandemic and people being at home. And that change in terms of how content is consumed has shifted because of that. And like I said, I feel like a large part of that has been sped up by the circumstances that have been happening out in our world. And it seems to me, because they even comment on what can come into play for for the organization, in that what can come into play for having that merger happen is the idea of what ICM brings to the table. So, I mean, if you go into the story, they talk about how that ICM can bring its book of publishing that it has that it has, as well as its representation with the sports world and that. So having those um, additional streams of revenue, I mean, that's what it seems to me seems to be another caveat in having this acquisition, is that there's access to those additional streams of revenue to kind of pick up the slack of what would otherwise would have been gained from their this talking about CAA, about their book of business and where their revenue is coming from. So it doesn't hurt to have additional streams of revenue, however way you want to slice it. So being able to expand and to be able to have those additional streams, I feel could also be playing a part in what's happening here as well.
I'm sure that's. I mean, obviously, and I'd be surprised if they didn't have any of that already. But yeah, if they were lacking in that area, this would definitely enhance it. But I will say, I guess one of the few things I could, you could say is kind of a plus to this is if you have an agency, or well, I mean, okay, it will be two. This will be like the second huge agency. I mean, because there used to be four or five or whatever, and this will be the second huge conglomerate. I guess the only good thing you could kind of say is that if you're one of these big agencies and you have all of these A-list stars and filmmakers, writers, and authors, whatever, you can have more leverage in making a deal with these huge tech companies and streamers. So, it's like I said, like if you're Disney or if you're Netflix or Amazon, Apple, like of course you got tons of money, big, you're distributing all the product, but you need the talent. So it's like if it's all consolidated in one area, whatever, like, and what if you're trying to make deals with several people? You kind of you have to go through this mammoth agency now, just like with WME. So it's putting some leverage back into the talent, but it's just in general for anybody who's an artist or a filmmaker or a writer or producer, actor. It's just better to have, in general, it's just better to have more options that have just as much power. I'm not saying the other agencies don't have any leverage at all, because if you're a good agent, you have good connections or whatever, and you're good at selling your client to get these deals. That's what you need to do. But a lot of these deals are also made based on the agency representing not only the writer, but the director or the main cast. Like there's some movies, like if you look, you're like, why are all these people in this movie? And you're like, if you look, they're all probably rep by the same agency. I think it was that movie, what was it, Street Kings? I don't know if you remember that movie that came out. I was like, how did they get all these people in this movie? And I think that was like a package deal. Because if you look, you're like, how did they get all of these famous people in one movie? And you were just like, some of them were smaller roles. I was like, that's weird, but they do stuff like that. But yeah, that's it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But also another thing they're gonna have to deal with is like the new, the negotiate. Remember there was the writers, they were gonna strike again because they were coming together with an agree. They had to renegotiate with the agencies also, and then obviously this IATSE strike. I mean that's with the AMPTP, but agencies rep a lot of those producers, so it's going to be
it still plays into it.
Like I said, there's going to be some sort of day of reckoning where like they're gonna all have to renegotiate or figure out some sort of way to just make stuff more fair, because now the money, if the pie is getting smaller for where the revenue is coming from, in different avenues or different revenue streams, everyone's going to want more money up front. And that's the thing. It's like everyone is going to need to get paid more up front, I think. So that's what they're going to have to deal with. But we'll see how this plays out. But it is interesting. It is interesting.
Now, switching gears, I know we were just talking about music, and I feel like it is kind of fitting considering our next story. So, we did get news this week of the iconic hip hop lineup, to say the least. And I feel like that's an understatement, but just the incredible lineup that we're going to have on stage at the Super Bowl. So, this week, it was announced that none other than Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, and Kendrick Lamar will take the stage at the Super Bowl in Inglewood, California on February 13th, 2022 for the Super Bowl. So, Jerome, you hear all of these names, and we have some folks that are some folks listed there that I just named that are native to LA, and to be able to come full circle and to perform on your home stage at the Super Bowl. Talk to me. What are your thoughts on the announcement of all of these folks coming to perform at the biggest stage?
I feel like we had to cover the story. It's so weird. It's like, if you really thought about it, this is like the only lineup that really makes sense because it's in LA. I mean, but it's funny because I was like, it's gonna be great this year. I'm like, we have to go to like the events, and I was like, this halftime. I was like, this is gonna be amazing. But I'm like, I just didn't even think about this. But then when they announced it, I was just like, it's perfect, and it's like, it totally makes sense. I mean, Dr. Dre is like the godfather of hip hop, especially West Coast rap, and him and Snoop. And then you got Eminem. I mean, like, arguably the best, like, lyricist. You could say the best MC. And you have Dr. Dre, who's like arguably the best producer. Snoop, like, they consider he's like the most famous rapper and like the most unique style. And then Kendrick Lamar, and arguably you could say the best rapper now, like this generation or whatever. And then Mary J. Blige. I mean, come on, she's like arguably, she's a queen of hip hop soul. Arguably, you could say one of the best R&B artists for her generation. And so I mean, it's crazy. I mean, if they pull this off right, it's possible it could be the best halftime show, or at least the top 5. And it's also interesting, it's like hip hop has been around for a while, but it's like they never really got the true representation at the halftime show. I mean, they've had, like, I know Big Boy performed in Atlanta. You had Nelly once with that collaboration with NSYNC and Britney Spears, and you had like Missy Elliott come out with Katy Perry. They were like guest stars and features here and there, but it never was like focused on a hip hop lineup. And it's like, man, it's been what? Hip hop's been around for like almost, you could say 40 years. Yeah, like about 41 years or a little bit more. It took that long, and it's like the biggest genre. Obviously, it's been dominating for a while. So it's like, this should have happened a while back. But I think the NFL probably has been, they've been more hesitant before, and they're trying to make it, I guess, more, family friendly or whatever. But I feel like what I was reading in the story, and just in general, they're saying that, well, and Dr. Dre was even saying in this clip, he was talking about how, like, he was thanking Jay-Z because Jay-Z's involvement with Rock Nation and the NFL.
Right.
That probably helped. I'm sure it probably helped. And it's like, that's great. I mean, maybe Jay-Z might pop in there for a little bit. I'm sure there might be some other features too. You never know. Like, maybe Warren G might come up there. Maybe get like, I don't know, some other. You never know. But what'll be interesting is like, what kind of how is the show gonna go, and like what songs and snippets are they gonna play, and who's gonna, because I mean, they all have monster, like, I mean, come on, Dr. Dre's catalog, Eminem's catalog, Snoop's, Kendrick Lamar, Mary J. Blige, they all have ridiculous catalogs, and it's like they have to play the bangers.
I'll put $5. I put $5 on that. Lamar does DNA. Because that would probably be awesome with NFL and football. So, like, that I feel like that would connect well to any type of sports anthem is DNA. So that I love that single.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's gonna be interesting too, because I'm sure almost all of them have done. Yeah, all of them have done songs together. Pretty much all those artists. I don't know, but yeah, for the most part. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they do some of those snippets too, of some of those collabs. But then also, of course, I'm sure Dre's gonna play like the classics, Nothing But G Thing and Still Dre, whatever, next episode. But then there's forgot about Dre, California. But the thing is, there's only so much time. They probably, yeah, of course, I'm sure they're gonna play that. but then just forgot about Dre. And Eminem is, Lose Yourself. He could do Till I Collapse. I mean, there's so many, and then Mary J. Blige. She can keep so. That's what I'm saying. Jay-Z might pop in there. You don't know, because hey, who knows? But yeah, I think it's gonna be amazing. And like I said, if they put the show, just be interesting to see what they do too. Like I can imagine. I don't know. I'm imagining like lowriders and stuff like that. Who knows? I mean, the whole West Coast.
Hey, they may very well do that. You're right.
I'm thinking they're gonna have to do something like that. That'd be great if they brought.
It will play well to the the aesthetic of LA and the culture of LA.
I wouldn't be surprised if Dre brought up like Ice Cube even, or maybe Ice-T came in, or whatever, or maybe Cypress Hill had a little. You never know.
Man,
like
Ice-T,
all these West Coast. But that's what I'm saying. Like you get the West Coast representation. I mean, it's there, and it makes sense. I mean, if you're gonna have anybody that featured, you want Dr. Dre. I mean, because I'm sure 50 Cent's gonna probably pop in there too. I'm like, it's gonna be crazy. It'll be ridiculous. But yeah, man, this is big time. Like I said, if they pull it off right, it could definitely be the best or one of the best shows ever. And I just like the idea that it's not like So a lot of times they'll be like, this is the headline or just this guy. And then maybe they'll have some people, but it's like the whole, like all of these artists are the headline, they're the headliners. So it's like a super, sure. I don't remember any other time where they had like this much star power. I mean, the only other time maybe you could say from when they had like Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake and Nelly but it's like, I don't know. I just feel like that was kind of like a certain time period, but like these guys are still relevant and they're using, so I mean, so it's going to be it should be good. I'm excited.
Should be crazy, man. Should be crazy. So keep it locked.
And I'm glad Snoop and Eminem squashed their little bullshit beef. This is probably why. They're probably like, it's all stupid, petty stuff anyway. Maybe they'll do another song together.
Maybe. So
I bet you Dr. Dre was like, look, we got to do this show. Like, come on, stop with the stupid. Yes.
With that being said, guys, keep it locked with that. That's going to be a constantly evolving thing because as you well know, we went to the Super Bowl when they had their most recent live edition of the Super Bowl. So
without the cardboard cutouts in the stands like last year.
We should have some news on that going into the upcoming show. So keep it locked. Now, moving on to another story, talks about, I know we were talking about a little earlier about an acquisition. We have news of a first look deal that we received news on, and that's with the director of Judas and the Black Messiah. So if you guys, aren't privy to, that film, as you know, it was co-written and directed by Shaka King. And as I said, he's receiving a first look deal from FX to develop some new television projects with the channel. And it's in reading the story and kind of getting the history behind his relationship with FX, I find that it was very much full circle, kind of similar in the same way we were talking about just now with the artists, the iconic hip hop artists that we have out of LA, performing in LA, and now you have this you have a filmmaker who he, for all intents and purposes, and he was quoted as saying this, like he started his directing career with FX. And then be able to come full circle and have a first look deal is pretty incredible. So, what are your thoughts on the news of this first look deal happening this week?
No, I think it's great. And shout out, he's a NYU alumnus. Shout out Shaka King. Yeah, he. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, that movie was amazing. I mean, I was shocked that, like I said, if Tenet didn't get nominated or won, I was like, this movie should have won the Academy Award, but whatever. Right. It won other awards, but whatever. I mean, I like Chloe Zhao too, NYU represent, but this movie was amazing. And he did a great job, him and the Lucas brothers. I mean, of course, I'm not shocked that he got an FX deal. FX seems to, I really got to respect FX because they really are like they really signed some quality filmmakers. I mean, obviously with Donald Glover with Atlanta, another NYU alum. What is it? Snowfall was great. I love that show. I mean, there's tons. I mean, obviously, they just keep bringing, just they keep bringing amazing filmmakers and writers and producers to their network and create really compelling content, compelling stories. And yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what he's going to do, because I mean, like I said, that movie was amazing. Just to get it done, and the execution. I mean, making a period piece like that, and I mean, like I said, regardless. Like I said, you have a movie that's amazing, that's done really well. It gets the accolades, it gets critical acclaim, and especially it did win a few awards. But that's like, it's inevitable. You should be getting deals like this after doing something like that. I mean, that's your calling card, and it just shows it's a journey. He also. I was looking into his background, like the stuff he did before. I mean, he did a movie in 2013, The Newlyweds. That's like 8 years later. I mean, it takes time, people. Overnight success could be like, 8 years, 10 years, 20 years. You just keep at it. I mean, he directed TV also. Indeed. So it just shows, like, you do something, you make a movie, maybe it didn't pop off or whatever. Who knows? Like, I didn't even really hear about that movie, but it doesn't matter. You do something else, do TV, whatever, and then boom, you make this amazing movie, and then now you get other opportunities instead of just being like a work for hire to work on someone else's show. Now he's going to be creating his own shows and stuff, and that's how you do it. It just takes time. Like my other friend Pete, he's doing his thing. I'm sure he's going to get there too, but yeah, man, when you make a movie that great, it just shows. Even if your movie, I don't know how well that movie did at the box office, because obviously the pandemic and it was on HBO Max, but regardless, it was really great. Got critical acclaim, won awards, got nominated a lot of people talking about it. The work is great. Why wouldn't he get a first look deal at a network and something like that? It's a great fit too. It's not just any network. It's they understand these types of stories and these perspectives specifically for stories that that he tells, for stories that he tells, or and these other great filmmakers too that are there. So I'm so excited to see what else he's gonna make.
For sure. Like I said, I just like that whole part of coming full circle like that. It's always great to start off in a certain spot with your career, and make your way back to the place that you started, where that career path began. So I'm definitely looking forward to what may come of that marriage, of that partnership, so to speak. And so yeah, just looking forward to see what develops and what is made from that. Now,
and I like his production company. It's called I'd Watch That.
yeah,
that's
definitely.
It's a good
name. Definitely. All right, so we commented on this story before as it was developing, and now we have an update on it, and that is regarding the pay dispute that is between actress Scarlett Johansson and with Disney. And if you guys aren't familiar, with that dispute, I mean, it's been everywhere, but just in case you haven't, it regarded her getting, or should say, start first with Black Widow having a strictly theatrical release. And, of course, as you guys know out there, if you, have seen the film, you're aware that it didn't necessarily have that strictly theatrical release. It had a release theatrically and on streaming with Disney Plus, where there was a surcharge, as they've done with prior releases, such as I believe with Mulan. They did, where they provided a surcharge for those that wanted to watch the film in the comfort of their homes. And because of that, Johansson called foul and basically got into this dispute with Disney, in this suit with Disney over the fact that it should have been strictly theatrical, because in terms of it being strictly theatrical, a lot of her compensation was tied up into that, of it being strictly theatrical, and it getting, the back end of the revenue that was generated there. But as I said, we have an update on that, and it appears that a settlement has been made as of this week. And to go into more specifics on it, they did get into a settlement. Of course, they're not going to disclose, what the specifics of that settlement is, according to the stories that have been out there. But considering how it was played out in the press and how it was played out across the media, I want to give a shout out to Scarlett, because out of all of this, despite the fact that she, other than in reaching out to stand her ground and to file a lawsuit, the thing that I feel that was really awesome out of this is that she didn't really get into anything personal. Like, she really, kept it professional. I feel like out of the whole thing, and in this with this dispute that was happening, it felt like, with considering both of the parties that were involved, whether it was Scarlett or Disney, that I feel, and many, I feel out there could agree, that it got really personal on the part of Disney. And thankfully, I'm glad, as I mentioned before, that we've gotten to a place where they're able to settle. Commenting on those quotes, Johansson, again, keeping it very professional. She was quoted as saying, "I'm happy to have resolved our differences with Disney. I'm incredibly proud of the work we've done together, over the years, and I've greatly enjoyed our creative relationship." Of course, going on and on about, that. And on the Disney end, the chairman of Disney, Alan Bergman, he was quoted as saying, "I'm pleased that we have also similarly, I'm pleased that we were able to reach a mutual agreement with Scarlett Johansson regarding Black Widow. We appreciate her contributions to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU, and look forward to working with her again." So I feel, and I'll punt it over to you, Jerome, that why couldn't we just have this, have this resolved from the get-go? And even if it did get to the point of a lawsuit as it had, how come it couldn't have been amicable like it was now, versus it getting as personal on the part of Disney in terms of this lawsuit? Because I felt, and it was, a lot of people were mentioning it, of how it seemed kind of like really out of character to have that get out of how personal it got on their part in terms of their dispute with Johansson. But again, I'll punt it over to you.
Yeah, this is inevitable. I knew they were gonna settle the deal. It's obvious, but it was just unnecessary that they had to bash each other in public. I always look at HBO Max. Even though HBO Max made a terrible decision, I think, of releasing all those films simultaneously without at least informing the filmmakers at a time, they still rectified at least their deals with most of their filmmakers and actors. I heard Denzel made more money off of the little things than I think the budget or something. I think he made, because it just couldn't do well. It couldn't. There was no way some of these movies were going to make money in the box office. What are you going to do? It's a pandemic. But they settled that. I didn't hear Denzel say, "Man, you're not paying me right," or whatever. I didn't hear HBO. No, they were like, "All right, we're going to pay you." Lin-Manuel Miranda and John M. Chu, they got paid a little bit more because In the Heights wasn't going to be released exclusively in theaters. And obviously it affected that box office. That movie did not do well in the box office. And there's plenty of examples. And then now you're seeing with Disney, Disney Plus, after Black Widow didn't do as well at the box office, obviously because of the premium price being charged simultaneously on Disney Plus for $29.99 or whatever the price was. Look at Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi's the highest grossing film now of this year. Nobody could tell me. You can't tell me that didn't have an impact. So obviously Scarlett Johansson knew what she was doing, and her lawyers knew that they were in the right position, and they had leverage, and that what was happening just wasn't right. But this all could have been handled under wraps and behind closed doors, and like I said, they could have just resolved it. Didn't need all the negative press or the bad publicity, people bashing each other or saying ridiculous things. Because look, now they're going to work together again. I mean, I knew that they wanted to continue the relationship. Disney wanted to continue the relationship with Scarlett Johansson. I mean, she's been with them for a while. I mean, she's a big star, and she's one of those few. She's also one of the few actors that, like I said, that wants to continue playing that character for a while. Obviously Disney's good at signing people to do that, but not everybody wants to do that. Not everyone wants to keep playing the same character for a long time. I mean, or even to keep working on other projects, similar types of projects. So, I knew that they were going to resolve this, but I just think they should have, they didn't need to hype it up. Only reason I could think of is that maybe Disney wanted to test the waters and be like, let me see who's really gonna say something and try to get more of their money. There's egos with these big companies. I mean, of course, if you're a huge company that's giving the deals out, like, you're gonna try and use your leverage as much as possible. But I mean, come on, like, we know that these movies aren't just. Of course, they're they're character based and IP based, you could say, but these actors bring them to life, and now we're used to certain actors playing certain roles in the Marvel universe. So, you gotta treat them right. You gotta pay them well. You gotta, and you have to adapt and adjust based on, the new models, the revenue models, where where box office, if box office is going to diminish because of a pandemic or for whatever reason, come on, you gotta pay them. You gotta pay them right. I mean. Especially if you had a deal before that they're supposed to get back in from the box office, and then you take away the box office. There should have already been something dealing with, like, streaming should have already been in the equation, or there should have been some sort of, like I said, even with Patty Jenkins with DC. I mean, she got paid more money. Obviously, Wonder Woman 1984 didn't do as well as it could have, but she got paid. She got her bonus, or they did something. You didn't see them bashing each other. So I'm just saying, it could have been done. I just don't like how they handled it. But whatever. Now they kiss they kiss and make up, and they move on, and they're making tons of money.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, I guess just in general, like, as I said, I want to just give kudos to Johansson, because I feel like throughout the whole thing, aside, she filed the lawsuit, which it was the right thing to do, because it's the principle of what it is that you sign. And then on top of that, too, throughout the whole thing, like, she kept it professional. Like, she didn't go back and forth, with Disney. Like, she had the lawsuit, she let it play out itself. She didn't make additional comments. And then, like, now everything, is resolved. Hopefully, we never get other instances of this happening, between a studio and an actor. But if it does happen again, this is the way that you go about it, and this is the way that you do it, to, still get your point across, but still be professional, about it, and not, go back and forth. Because I feel like that could have been another part of it that could have allowed it to go sideways too, is if she went back and forth with Disney through the press like that, as it seemed like they were trying to do. So the fact, I feel like she, just allowed it to play out the way it needed to, and stayed, didn't really say anything beyond doing the lawsuit itself, and didn't really get into kind of like petty nitpicking stuff back and forth in the press. I feel like that also played into how this was resolved as well. So,
well, I'm saying, I mean, even if she didn't say anything, I mean, obviously I think her lawyers.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying,
but
like, that's still
behind closed doors, and not.
No, but I'm saying, like, I think there like, they. Whatever, like, it makes sense. I mean, defend, that's why you have good lawyers and good reps, and they're going to represent you. But I'm just saying, like, I don't think that's unprofessional, but it's just justified. But yeah, she wasn't doing like some 50 Cent stuff. I mean, that's different. 50 Cent is 50 Cent. But I'm just saying, like, it wasn't like a actual beef battle, like, you know, what some of these guys would do, but might do in the public. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, that's definitely no, that's she's you know, she's definitely classy, and you know, she's fighting for what's, you know, what's right and what's her you know, whatever she signed, whatever deal she signed. I mean, yeah, that's what you gotta do. But it's also good to see that, you know, that they resolve this and everything, because, you know, if an A-lister, if a huge star is having problems with the big company, you gotta think twice about, like, oh my goodness, what about the people who aren't as big? Like, what, you know, so it's good to know that, even, you know, it's good to know that this happens, but at the same time, it shows you could still be a big star. You're making all this money, and then they're still trying to, like, it doesn't matter how much leverage you have.
I
They
was gonna
still
say
could be like,
I'll add another piece that I didn't even think of, that I feel could have also played a role in you know, how this played out and how it was resolved, is the whole matter with the Russo brothers. So for those of you that are not aware, you know, the Russo brothers were in the process of you know, doing a new deal with Disney and potentially coming back to the MCU for some future projects. And they have been quoted as saying a major thing that kind of, you know, stifled discussions between them and Disney was this, you know, incident. So, you know, maybe that also factored into it as well, you know, big picture wise. So not only, you know, resolving, you know, your dispute with, you know, one of your perennial stars with Johansson, and, you know, the repercussions of how that can affect things down the line, not just in the MCU with, you know, things that she may come back for, because again, we have a multiverse, guys. Yeah, she, you know, the character died. Sorry, spoiler alert.
nah,
Yes, the
spoiler
character
alert. No,
died.
come on, that's like 2 years
Yeah,
old, bro.
the character died, but, you know, as we've seen in other forms of media with What If and other things, you know, they could always come back as a variant. So, like, if they wanted to bring the character back, they could if they wanted to, and if the desire was there for the actor to come back, the actor themselves on their part, if they wanted to come back, you know, that, you know, the possibility is there. So you have that. You have the other implication of, you know, perhaps your biggest directors still in the iffy kind of position of whether they're going to come back, and making sure, you know, that you're able to secure them for, you know, future projects. Yeah, like it's a no brainer to me of why this hadn't been resolved sooner. But I'm feeling that kind of helped move things along pretty quickly to get it, you know, done and resolved. So as I mentioned before, when we were talking about how the dispute was developing, I'm glad that things have been resolved. Hopefully, as I said, it doesn't happen again, or that we don't see it happen again among, you know, studio and actor. But you never say never, I suppose. But at least in terms of the precedent set with you know, this suit, that you know, hopefully it will encourage a better a more transparent conversation between talent and studios when it comes to compensation. That's all I'll say.
And also, Destin Daniel Cretton, Chloe Zhao, and any other director coming out, you know, with their movie coming out later, they should be thanking her, because, like I said, they did. Disney changed, but they did. You can't say not, you know, that this didn't affect their decision. I'm sure Shang-Chi was probably going to be released in the same fashion, but they didn't. At least they didn't release it simultaneously on Disney Plus with the premium charge. And I don't think I doubt Eternals will be, or Spider-Man No Way Home. So, you know, Black Widow had to bear the brunt of this experimental, you know, release mechanism, I guess you could call it. But yeah, you know, they should be thanking her too, because they're not gonna have to deal with this stuff. I mean, I don't know how well Jungle Cruise or Cruella or some of those other ones did, but I mean, yeah, they also had to bear the brunt of that too. But for at least the well-known properties, the ones that have proven, the brand that has proven that it's pretty much successful with every movie that gets released, which is Marvel under the Disney banner. Yeah, the other movies really need to be like sending her a thank you letter, because or at least the filmmakers and the stars, because their money should not be as affected, at least right now.
For sure, for sure. So to close off, I mean, we have a few other stories to go over. One being a reminder, and another one about a film that just released this weekend, and that release, of course, being Venom. Let There Be Carnage. So that release this weekend, this past Friday, and I had a chance to see it. Jerome had a chance to check it out as well, and I have a couple of thoughts on it. I know, Jerome, you have a few thoughts on it. I want to try to keep it non-spoilery since it is opening weekend still.
Okay, yeah. All right.
But still, with that being said, Jerome, just initial thoughts, and then I'll get into my initial thoughts as well. I'll punt it over to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was decent. I mean, I thought it was better than the first one. I did like how they incorporated. I could tell they incorporate, well, at least some of the Maximum Carnage storyline, even though I think that storyline would have been way better if they did that, but whatever. I mean, they did the best they could. I mean, I wanted it to be rated R. I mean, it still kind of worked, even though it was PG-13. They would cut away for some things here and there. The whole goofy Venom, symbiotic relationship with Eddie Brock, like that split personality type of thing, the voice and everything. I mean, I know some people are probably going to hate on that just from the last one. That's if you like that, you like that. If you don't, you're probably not going to like this movie as much because it's trying to be funny with that whole dichotomy. But I don't know. I mean, it to me, it wasn't. I didn't hate that. I don't know. With Woody Harrelson, I mean, I think he did a good job. Pretty much. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I kind of was thinking that character, the actor maybe they would have picked would have been even more like sinister or something, or more sadistic. But I mean, it still worked for me. I mean, I'm not gonna spoil what happened to end. Like in the most part, I still enjoyed it. Thought even though I think I would have liked to see a rated R, more gory film, or more of like a Maximum Carnage stuff, because like I said, they use elements of that from that comic book, except for the team ups. I mean, and having Spider-Man team up with Venom to fight Carnage. But the ending, I was kind of like, I won't say what happens, but I kind of feel like I just don't like in general when certain franchises do what they did, because anyway, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, and then they have a little bonus credit scene that's not bad. But I think from like the whole Carnage perspective of like how they showed him and everything, and his origin, I mean, or at least like visually, I mean, I think they did a pretty decent job with that. I mean, it's only so much. I don't know how much more with CGI what you could do, but I was waiting to see how Carnage would wreak havoc. But like I said, the guy's name is Carnage. It's kind of like with Wolverine. Like I still enjoyed it, but at the same time, you're like, his name is Carnage. Like that, just that character is R-rated. He's not PG-13. It's kind of like Wolverine cutting up people, but you don't see blood or whatever. It's like Wolverine has freaking adamantium claws. Like he's chopping heads off. He's cutting people up. Like that can't be PG-13. That's why Logan was so great. They finally got to that essence. That's like my main thing, but I don't know. I would rather see like a Maximum Carnage type of storyline, but I still enjoyed it. I'd probably give it like I don't know, maybe like a C plus, B minus. I'd give it like a B minus.
No, I hear you. And I'm surprised. I thought you were gonna give a higher rating. I'll be honest with you. I'm on the same boat as you in terms of my thoughts on the film, and I want to say the thing that I feel is, let me start here. So the first Venom film, it was fun, but I still felt that it was like lacking in terms of the dialogue and how how the script was. It felt in parts kind of a little disjointed, or in terms of like the flow of how it worked, it seemed it was kind of a little wonky, even in, and it may also just be with the way it was edited. But um, I was hoping, like with this new film, like that element would change a bit, especially with the new Helmer, and having a new energy brought to it. But I still feel like it brought some of those same things that kind of jarred me from the first film over to the second film too, because the dialogue still is kind of wonky. I feel in parts, in terms of how it flows and the interactions. And again, it may also be attributed to the editing as well, but it was still there. The action is terrific. But I guess another thing that kind of was a bummer for me is that they leave it open. I will say they leave it open for a sequel, but in leaving it open for a sequel, the manner in which they leave the door open for that was still kind of, and again, this may also go back to editing also. It left it in a weird place. If I can try to say it without being spoilery. If you know, so with one of the characters, something you have I was gonna say with one of the characters that they kind of leave the door open with, which for those of you that are comic book fans, you'll know that we do have another character in there that has a relationship with symbiotes, other than outside of Eddie and outside of Cletus. That's all I'll say. So like what they did with that, and how it was, how they did that scene was kind of weird. I don't know if you agree with me on that, because it was like, okay, what are they trying to say there?
I don't think that was done well, because it was
really,
like I said,
weird,
even if
and it
you know
was
the
like
comic book, yeah,
it was
but you had no idea. You don't know what the hell this guy is. Anyway, that's what I'm saying from my perspective.
I'm just saying, just how it was executed. I feel like it left you in a confused place of, okay, are they trying to say something's happening there, or are they saying nothing's happening there? Like, and then it was like a quick cut there. So again, there we go. I guess I'm just answering my own question. It was how it was edited. It was kind of weird.
No, I think it's more the writing
or the flow. So but still, even I feel like even in cases where you might run into things with the writing, once you get there and make the film, like you can still kind of you can still make redraft the script there on the fly, and make make tweaks here and there. So
but it starts on the page, man.
Yeah, no, like that part of it was weird, and it was really confusing on how they how it seemed.
I'm just saying, it just came out of nowhere. Like I have no like I don't know. Like I said, I don't know every character, but it's like someone who's watching a movie, you don't know what's going on. Like you don't know every character. Like I honestly, I mean, like I'm not gonna say what happened, but I would say I thought it was like tied to another character. I was like, is this another? I was like, but I don't think it is. Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, but in another Spider-Man movie.
So you agree with me? Okay.
But I will say also one thing, regardless of like, I think the problem in general, even though I like Venom and I like CARNAGE, I love these characters. I'm sorry, I think the main problem though is the Venom character to me is more interested when he's in a Spider-Man movie, and the relationship with Spider. It's just more interesting because the storyline of the symbiote, Spider-Man getting it, then it goes to Venom, and then like I said, Maximum Carnage is amazing. Like, Venom is Venom has to team up with Spider-Man to fight Carnage. Like, that's interesting to me. Then because if you do think about it, in the last movie, I mean, if they're just gonna keep making more of these movies, it's just Venom fighting other symbiotes. Okay, we get it, but like, it's played out, bro. Like, how many times are you gonna do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just have the same. Okay, we found some other symbiotes. All right, now there's Offspring. Okay, I mean, I like Carnage, but it's like, what are you gonna do in the next one? Oh, now we got another. Like, come on, it's like Iron Man just fighting guys in suits of armor. I mean, I didn't think Iron Man 3 was the best one out of the Iron Man series, but at least he was fighting a different type of threat. Like, give me something different, man. That's all I'm saying. It's like, what's it called?
I was gonna say also before you continue, I was gonna
Yeah.
say too on my portion, make sure you stick around for the credits. That's all I'll say. So there is an end credit scene.
And that's another thing too. I mean, I'm not gonna say what
But
happened, but like it's just, well, we'll see what happens. I think I have an idea of of how they're gonna do what they do regarding that scene, later. But I don't know. It's just, but what it just tells me is like Sony's just trying to maximize obviously as much money as they can make, and even if the critics didn't like the last Venom, it did so well. That's why they kept all that stuff, even if they went slightly, they went a little bit. Say a little bit. They definitely went darker and more. They try to at least develop Carnage's character a little. The villain more, make him more significant, and I thought that was good. But I feel like because if the last one didn't do well or whatever, I think they might have changed some of that goofy back and forth. I think because I feel like that's why they continued it. I mean, I don't know. This is the thing though, but this is also, you got to think about it. It's like, you see something on a comic, you read a comic book, you look at the pictures, and people are thinking whatever they think when they read the dialogue or whatever. It's in your imagination. It's in your head. You watch the animation, you watch the Spider-Man cartoon. I mean, that's another interpretation. I mean, these filmmakers, they got to figure out a way to like try to make Venom, that was a way, I guess, to try to make him work. But the thing is, like, if it's goofy, it's goofy. Like, I don't know. You got to decide. It's like, is this just too goofy, or is this we're trying to be funny, or is it just trying to be dark? Like, that's the issue, I think. And I feel like there was maybe too much goofiness between him and Venom. But maybe if like it was funnier, I feel like if Venom was funnier, like if it was either funny, really funny, that might work more, or if it's like, or he has to be way darker, even if he has some funny parts. But I just feel like that's why I keep saying it's the writing. I think, like, even with the first one, like, there's just some stuff that was just like, he obviously he wants to eat humans, he wants to eat bad guys or whatever, but it's like just some of the dialogue is just, or most of it, it's just so goofy, and it sounds like he's just trying to be funny so much. It's just like when you're forcing the comedy, it just, to me, it doesn't work. Like the action, I mean, I'm more excited to see the action and the interaction, or I would rather see like a situation that could be funny. But I still feel like, and you could even tell from the trailer, that was the issue. Like if you looked at the trailer, I was like, I wasn't really laughing at those scenes, but they were trying to make these funny scenes, and it's just like, I think that's more of the issue. If they got around that. But I will say I was impressed that they did try to make it darker, or at least with the Carnage story. Like I like that storyline. I thought that was interesting how they developed it, and how they had Shriek in there. I mean, you could see her in the trailer. That's why I was like, yo, Maximum Carnage. But yeah, I think it's that goofy tone, the goofy back and forth, and the trying too hard to be funny. I think that's what just hurts these films, and it's hard to make that work if that's the tone you set. Then and it did well. The first one did well. Like I feel like Sony has no choice to be like, yeah, well, it did well, so we're gonna keep at it. Like you know what I'm saying? Like with what was that other movie? And I feel like they changed they went in a totally new direction. What was the superhero movie? Well, we'll see with, I don't know.
You saying with
actually,
Suicide Squad?
Yeah, okay, yeah, perfect. That's a great example. I mean, I like Suicide Squad, but it didn't do as well. So they kind of did the whole requel, or what do you want to call it? Rebranding. I thought the last one was great. Now, of course, the pandemic, you have different issues, but that's a good example of like, all right, even if the first one did somewhat well or whatever, they were like, let's try and do something. Let's totally try to rebrand it. There you go. But I feel like otherwise they would have, they would have continued with DC, and Warner Brothers probably would have continued with using David Ayer and just that story, with the same characters. But I don't know. I mean, even though, but it's weird though. Suicide Squad did do pretty well though, but it wasn't. I don't know. I guess they feel like if it maybe could have done better, or like here, or Amazing Spider-Man 2. That's another example. Like they didn't have a third Amazing Spider-Man movie. They're supposed to do 2 more. I remember, and a Sinister Six movie. But what happened? They Sony teamed up with Marvel, and now they have Marvel's killing it with these Spider-Man movies. And you got the third one coming out in December. So these studios will make these changes, I feel like, with the filmmakers or whoever they're hiring or the writers, all dependent on the box office of the previous one. And the tone and everything is going to continue or it won't continue. Or they're going a different direction. But like I said, I feel like that's just what happens. And regardless of critics not liking Venom, it didn't, based on the budget and how well it did at the box office and everything. I mean, I think it made like 800 million or something. I mean, it made a lot of money. And I don't think they spent that. I mean, they spent some money, but I don't think they spent as much as like these other movies. To them, I guess they consider that, that's a win. So,
Well, I guess I'll say this in closing, especially in talking about, like I said, without spoiling what they have in the end credit scene, but still commenting on it, is I'm just hoping that things don't get too crowded. That's all I'll say, is that, we have all these elements that are coming into place. We're dealing with a multiverse. I'm just hoping that in terms of how it's weaved into the MCU and how things happen, that it happens in a seamless enough way where you have all of these elements at play and it doesn't become too messy and it doesn't become too crowded. Because a lot of times when it becomes too messy or too crowded, we've seen it happen in the past where it just becomes a jumbled mess. Like, looking back at Last Stand, at X3 Last Stand, and that had to do like a soft reboot of sorts. Looking at
reboot wasn't any better. Much better.
No, I mean, in terms of
like the Dark Phoenix
First Class. No,
that's fine. But I'm saying the reboot of the Last Stand was kind of Dark Phoenix.
I'm saying in terms of the installment to follow it, that franchise.
Oh yeah. But I'm just saying, like, the newer version of that wasn't that much better anyway.
but also I'm commenting on, ironically, what we're getting with Spider-Man allegedly.
But wait, Into the Spider-Verse had a lot of characters though, and that was good. I'm just saying it could be done. Again, it could be done, man. It could be done. I don't think the writing.
I'm just hoping that it's done seamlessly, because again, not just talking about X-Men, ironically, again talking about even Spider-Man, we had the same thing happen with the Parker, with the Raimi Spider-Man films. Which
I don't think that was an issue though.
But at least
I don't think that was an issue though for the third one.
Hold on. At least with the third film, there was a lot of elements going on in that film where I feel like if it was, far fewer elements going on, that it would have, worked better. Because I love the first two films in that trilogy, and then the third one, it just seemed to have too much going on. Like, and I'll always argue this, is that I love all the characters. I loved the characters that they had in that film. It's just that I feel that they warranted their own film. So, like, give me an example, be more specific of what I mean. Like, Sandman was amazing, and Sandman was amazing enough where he could have been the only villain in Spider-Man 3 and it would have been fine. The same goes, I mean, if you wanted to do the little subplot, with Green Goblin, fine, but having, Goblin Jr., so to speak, and having
they should have probably limited that. But I don't think,
and having Venom, having all of those elements in there, like I don't
think to me that wasn't the main issue with it. The only movie, and I didn't hate that movie like other people as much. Like, it could have been better though. But I think the main issue though was they just kept recycling the same plot. Mary Jane is how many times can Mary Jane be? Oh, I need to save Mary Jane. That to me, that was the problem.
Enough, but I was
no. It's funny though, because I disagree when people hate on Spider-Man 3. I like that. I actually like that one the best originally. But then I looked at it again. I was just like, you know what the problem was that movie? It's not about the crowded stuff. I thought that wasn't the end of the world. I mean, whatever. People disagree.
I got you.
No, I looked at it again. I was just like, I was like, you know what really pissed me off is the conflict. Why is it in every Spider-Man movie he's just trying to rescue Mary? Like, dude,
I mean, that's fair. That's all right. That's the thing.
To me, that's the biggest problem. I was like, you guys are so lazy in thinking of what the conflict could be. You just keep recycling the same crap. That is the issue. And for me, I think and it's like these new ones, at least it wasn't just that. It was different threats. And I'm like, that's why also I like these newer ones better.
But going back to my point of, and I get what you're saying, because
like I said, the crowded thing is bullshit, because Spider-Man Into the Universe had so many villains. You had King, you had a whole bunch of people.
Trust me, I get that argument.
I disagree with the crowded thing.
But the only thing that I would say also that plays into what I was saying with the crowded villains is, the villains are formidable enough where they do not need to team up. Venom does not need to team up with
But he
with
does fight the
Sandman.
Sinister Six, though. But he does fight the Sinister Six.
He does. That's fair. But Venom is a large enough threat where he does not need to team up with any other supervillain in order to take down Spider-Man. Like, that took me out. I was like, why are you teaming up with Sandman in order to take down Spider-Man? You could do that by yourself. Like, that could have what could have been done is that you had
maybe, but
hold on. What could have been done is that you could have had Sandman, like I said, if you wanted to do the Goblin, subplot and incorporate that in there because they were weaving that in the other films too, fine. But making Sandman the main villain, and they could have still had the subplot actually with the Black Symbiote. However, they could have,
and he could have been just the Black Symbiote at the end, maybe. I think that would have. Yeah, I think they could have had Venom in the next one. They could have had Venom in the next one. They could have had Venom in like Spider-Man. Yeah. I agree with that. They kind of did.
That could have still worked.
I think that exactly, yeah. But I'm just saying there is precedent for like Spider-Man into Spider-Verse. I thought that was done well. Tons of villains.
Agreed.
You look at even like an ensemble like X-Men. Of course, these aren't villains, but if you have like a good like I like X2, X-Men United, X-Men First. Those are a lot of like even some of the Avengers, like Captain America: The Winter Soldier. You had several villains in there too. They weren't like the main villains, but they can be background or sub or like supporting villains. It's just how you, like you said, but it's the writing and it's the execution. But I don't think it's the idea of having several villains. It just has to be done well and has to be
let me say it this way.
So I just don't like that argument when people say it's like there's not examples of it where it does work, bro.
Hold on, let me say it this way then. On paper, the idea of having all of those elements in place. For a talented writer, yes, it can be done where you can weave it in and have it all make sense. But I feel like you already put yourself at a disadvantage, or that you already present a challenge to yourself by on paper having all of these characters in there. Because I would say even in Last Stand, you have all of those characters in there, and because there's so many characters in that, you can't really provide enough license to have every character have their moment. It just seemed like they were just being thrown in there just for the sake of being thrown in there. And then what ended up happening
of course, yeah.
And then what ended up happening was,
but they changed people too. That's why.
What ended up happening is that
that's
you had
what it
those
was.
characters. Hold on, and I'm gonna get there. What ended up happening is because you didn't have enough time to spend on certain characters, is that certain abilities and certain elements of those characters were Ben and Jerry together, as I like to say. They were mixed together, and they were called a certain character, even though they had the powers of a different character.
No, you're right. No, that's true. But I don't think that had anything to do with having a lot of characters. Things just had to do with they didn't give a shit. The people were just like, let's just put it in for names, and that's what I'm just saying. Like I just think in the end, if you do it. Like I said, if you have elements here, it has to serve the story also. That's the thing. Like the characters have to serve the story, that serve the and you're right. You just can't put anybody in there. And I'm not saying put a whole bunch, but it sounds like in No Way Home. I mean, like I think I have high hopes for them because of Marvel, and they do a good job of producing these movies, and Kevin Feige and John Watts, who do a good job. But with this whole multiverse thing, obviously, if they're going to be putting in, it looks like they're going to have cameo roles. I mean, I don't know if Dr. Octopus is going to be the main villain. Who knows? But it's not. There's nothing wrong having a little, boom, boom, and it just has to make sense. Just don't throw them in there to throw them in there. But it's a multiverse, so it's like it's making sense. You would have these effects. So who knows who's going to be the real main villain? I don't know, but I'm just saying. But also, I will say with animation, a lot of people forget to think about it, is like animation, you can get away with a lot of stuff because you're animating the characters. So you're not relying on actors to like give the expression, but you're relying on their voice. But you can draw those emotions. So that's also why I have an issue with people like animation. The animated one's so much better. I'm like, but like you're drawing the emotions. It's not. I mean, it's not the same as like you're hiring an actor to give you that emotion. If you make the wrong decision, then you're getting mad at, people want to compare. It's like, it's kind of hard to compare completely. I feel like it's not always a fair comparison, but at least story wise in the writing, you can't deny. Like I think a lot of times they do a better job, at least on the DC side. But Into the Spider-Verse was a really good example on the Marvel side of Sony associated in association with Marvel version of a movie that was animated that was done really well and had a lot of characters. So, but yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how it turns out, but that's why the script has to be right, man. You got to write that script well. You got to have the right people to execute it. I mean, in the end, that's all I will say. You know,
So
you
as
could have one character and it
usually,
sucks.
we are
You
passionate
can have one
about our
villain and he sucks.
films. Yeah, we are passionate about our films, guys. But no, I appreciate it because we always get into it when it comes to breaking down a lot of these films, especially superhero films. But with that being said, I'm your host, Brandon Choi, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Before I get into it, I'll punt it over to my co-creator. Go ahead, Jerome.
Yeah, Jerome Bourgeois, co-creator, co-founder, Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can definitely check me out on Twitter or Instagram, JW Bourgeois
Yeah, hold on
21.
one sec. Hold
Well, you
on
saw it
one
right
sec.
here.
Yeah, go
Boom.
ahead.
JW Bourgeois 21 on Instagram and Twitter. And you can also follow us on the Move and Shake UNLTD on Twitter or Facebook. And we're also on Instagram at Movers Shakers Unlimited. And if you want to support us on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com, Movers Shakers Unlimited. And definitely follow, click that little bell on YouTube so you can get, you can know about new episodes coming. And we're going to have we definitely just tune in for our weekly episodes, and we're going to have some special ones coming up, different locations. And like we said, Super Bowls, when that comes out, you might see us in LA at some of these events, so, and some other ones coming up before that. But I'll pass it back to you, Brandon. You can talk
All
about
right, cool. Yeah,
our
I
next
wanted to
thing.
give you a quick reminder for those of you out there. As you know, this coming week we have New York Comic-Con happening, New York Comic-Con 2021 happening in Cannes. And unless you have been living under a rock, you know that we are, or I should say, I will be representing Movers and Shakers Unlimited as the MC for that panel. So for the cheesy line contest, I'm gonna put it up here now. So yes, the cheesy line contest that is happening on Saturday. It's happening on Saturday, October 9th at 6:30 in room 406.2. I'll drop the link in the description for this video. But yes, that is happening this coming Saturday at 6:30 p.m. So make sure you come by, say what's up. If you just want to, give a holler, so to speak, or if you want to, participate as well, by all means, come on by. So like I said, I will see you guys next Saturday. Of course, there are going to be a couple of shows in between then that I will be announcing that are related to New York Comic-Con. But yes, that is also happening next weekend. So make sure that you come by, say hi, and come participate as well. Now, with that being said, as I mentioned before, I'm your host, Brandon Choi, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me at Brandon Choi ENT, which you see down below on Twitter, and Brandon Choi _ENT on Instagram. Thanks so much for watching. Be safe out there. And other than that, I will see you guys soon. Peace.
Peace out. See you guys.